that I hope that all of the Detroit Lions get to go to Applebees like it's after a High School Musical, and that Coach Campbell has some sort of discount based on his deal with Applebees.
Yep. This is where I gloat that last week my top 25 team I put on upset alert actually got upset.
If Cam Ward grew wings, like he full Lady Gaga's at the Super Bowl, like
Richardson made a pass that was like a 57-yard bullet for a touchdown that blew my mind.
I hope everyone gets dollar margaritas.
Friday football forecast. Banana. Recording from New York and Los Angeles, your hosts, Nicole Katz and Briana Klein, are emerging from the tunnel for this week's show. Another sports show is ready to broadcast to you on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make us one of your stars of the game by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on auto downloads. Before we kick off, please leave us a podcast review and YouTube comment. Attend the postgame on social media for exclusive daily content. Today on another sports show.
Welcome to the second week of your Friday football forecast. Reminder, we're going to be doing this every week through football season, where you get a second episode of another sports show where we preview this week in football. So, of course, we're going to run through week 2 of the NFL. We're going to give you our game of the week, the Doormat Game of the week, our Underdog picks, which were really difficult to pick, a little sprinkling of some offensive line and defensive line talk, and of course, we have to talk about Nicole's fantasy team, because everyone cares about Nicole's fantasy team, right? I don't know. I'm invested in her winning, so we're going to talk about it. Then, of course, we head to our college football corner, where we give you our college football game of the week and our predictions for that, a top 25 upset, and Nicole gets delusional about the University of Miami Hurricanes, because what is a Friday football forecast without it? And last but not least, we end the show with Final Buzzer, a couple of injury reports and news that you should know going into the weekend. If you haven't yet, make sure you go check out our Tuesday episode of Another Sports Show. It's our normal episode where we react to everything that happened in week 1 of the NFL and week 2 of college football. All of that is still relevant and exciting if you just haven't gotten around to it yet. But with that, take it away, voiceover man.
It's another sports show, but it's not game of the week.
Unlike week 1, I didn't feel like there were a ton of options for game of the week in week 2. I think the NFL game of the week is the Bengals Chiefs. And this, if the Bengals didn't play so poorly, I think it would have been a more exciting game of the week. But I think it also could be a get-right game for the Bengals. I think the Chiefs didn't look... I mean, the Chiefs looked good against Baltimore, but Baltimore also looked good. When I looked at the slate of games, it became the game of the week because it is the game with the most amount of interest I had in it. Whether or not it's going to be close, it seems a little less certain after week 1. So I have 2 things. 1, do you agree with my interest in the storylines of the game? And 2, is there any chance the Bengals go on the road to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs?
I agree that this is also where I have an incredibly strong rooted interest, because it kind of feels like it feels weird to say a make or break point week 2 for the Bengals. But if the Bengals were so weak this week against the Patriots, my initial impression would be that they would be demolished with the Chiefs. However, it's a really good,
it's a measuring stick game. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it's like a really good time for them to be like, oh no, we just totally forgot how to play football, and they could come in and just be actually prove what their depth and abilities actually are. Do I feel like that's going to happen? Not necessarily. No. I don't, but I do also strongly feel like that is the most interest in this. I do not feel like the odds are in the favor of the... Oh my God, who are we talking about? The Bengals. Jesus Christ. I already forgot who we were talking. I almost said the Ravens again because I was just Baltimore. I don't feel like the odds are in the favor of the Bengals, but...
It also doesn't help that the Chiefs have a long week. Right now, and they're home.
And they're home in Arrowhead, right now, or whatever Chiefs, the heck their name of their stadium is.
Arrowhead, yeah. The Chiefs are currently... It's early lines, but the Chiefs are currently favored by 6. That doesn't even feel like enough.
Yeah, that I can only see going more.
Bengals, I will be rooting for you, and not because I'm any particular Bengals fan, it's just I'm in camp anyone but the
Jamar
Chiefs.
Chase is my keeper. Jamar Chase is my keeper. That's your rooting interest, even though no one cares about my fantasy team. Woo!
Hey, wipe your shoes on the doormat before coming inside.
All right, Doormat Game of the Week. These are two teams that are not good, that are facing each other, so it could be evenly matched. The Doormat Game of the Week this week, the Giants are heading to DC to take on the Commanders in a NFC East division matchup. Oh boy, did the Giants look awful. The Commanders also lost this week, but they were playing Tampa Bay and didn't look as awful as the Giants. But rookie quarterback, I don't know if he really impressed me personally, but it's not like Danny Dimes is that good. I will also point out that this is the second week in a row, and it's only week 2 that the Giants are in our Doormat Game of the Week if you're getting smashed by the Vikings in week 1. Nicole, who do you have in our Doormat Game of the Week?
So my first question was literally going to be like, how many times are we going to have to rename this Doormat Game of the Week to just like the Giants Game of the Week after today's performance was absolutely so bad.
I don't know. Carolina was
Carolina was so
Giants.
bad. It did come really close to either being Giants or Carolina in this game, but overall,
the difference
energy.
was the Giants are playing another team I would call a doormat, whereas Carolina Panthers are playing the Chargers, who we didn't talk a lot about in our Tuesday Another Sports Show episode, but the Chargers did look like a functioning football team, so I didn't feel like I think the Chargers are going to look great against the doormat of the Panthers. So it just wasn't it wasn't an option for this week.
Not but the full doormat, not someone coming in.
No, because we don't have two doormats. That's the whole point. But yeah, Giants Commanders.
Fully Commander. I have the Commanders as this pick, which feels very safe and allowed, and Giants stuck to the doormat again, especially after the performance that we saw today. And again, like a little bit more question marks with Vikings than we came in with the Giants, but dang, Giants looked rough.
I think that there's a high probability when you have a rookie starting quarterback, there's going to be lots of learning pains and curves. And we've been talking a lot about how Danny Dimes, we know exactly who he is, and he's not a quarterback who can throw dimes, but he might at this point have a higher floor of being awful than a rookie quarterback who's figuring it out. So I wouldn't be super surprised if the Giants pull out this win, just because I think there's more variability over on the Commander side. But
I'd be surprised just because it was so bad.
Yeah, I struggle with, like, we do this show, and in the show our job is to be reactive and to give takes and valuable insight, and sometimes that's hard after 1 week of football when there's like any given Sunday, and like, so like, yeah, I think the Bengals could hold up against the Chiefs, and that doesn't mean the Patriots are the next great team. It just means the Bengals had a bad week this week. And I feel the same way about like the Giants. Like, I don't think the Giants are good. Like, let me be very, very clear. But they could look like a normal serviceable team against the Commanders next week, and I would also not be surprised. So like, I don't think this is going to be some kind of Commanders blowout. I think this is going to be an ugly game that no one's actually going to want to watch, of two NFC East teams that are evenly matched.
It's going to be incredibly painful. Lots of probably punt, intercept, punt, field goal. Like, fumble. Yeah, there's the game for you.
Yeah.
Commanders win by 3.
Or, because they're so evenly matched, it becomes some like high-flying scoring game where no one plays any defense. I feel like it could be, I don't know. Who knows?
Hungry dogs run faster.
We like to make our lives really hard for ourselves, so every week we have to come with an underdog pick. Now, in our rules, an underdog needs to be an underdog by more than 3 points, looking at the line of the game. Also, disclaimer, we're looking at really early lines, so the lines are subject to change, and if it ends up not being an underdog by the time comes out on Friday, sorry. This week, I really struggled to pick an underdog of the week.
This was rough. This was right. Hard. I don't even know if I don't feel 100% about my underdog pick.
Which honestly is how an underdog should be, because the spreads are so vast. Do you want me to start, or would you like to start?
Go ahead. Do the honors.
All right. I am being a delusional Philadelphia fan. My underdog of the week is the New Orleans Saints at the Dallas Cowboys. I'm putting out the positive vibes into the world.
All right, we love that energy. That's especially after a Cowboy performance today. I'm sure that will feel good.
Well, yeah. Oh, look, the teams that are underdogs, I really don't believe in any of them. So if I'm gonna root to be right on the podcast about something, I'm gonna root against the Cowboys. If I want to give some like rational analysis here, I didn't think the Cowboys looked like some world-beating team. I thought that the Browns were incapable of making any offense happen, and that's kind of like would have happened against any team. Now, I don't believe in the Saints, but I don't believe.
Fantasy football is yelling at me because.
So I don't believe in the Saints, but I don't believe the Cowboys are some world-beating team because they beat up on a team that like was incapable of driving the football down the field. That's my poor analysis of why maybe the Saints might win a thing.
Going into my underdogness, which it feels wrong, and it also feels wrong because I haven't seen the Jets play, but I actually have the Titans beating the Jets next weekend. So in my brain, I'm thinking of the Jets that I've always known as the Jets, and I'm thinking of the Titans that have played that played the Bears today, that played the Bears defense. And I don't know, I'm picking the Titans over the Jets, and it's just in my gut, and this is 50% my show and can do whatever I want, and that's my pick of it.
True. Can you tell based on both of our underdog picks that it was impossible with the slate of games to feel good about any underdog?
Yeah, the Titans were +4. Like this is like also like not like the greatest like spread. Like that's also pretty close.
That
and evenly
spread
matched.
Is so subject to change again based on the Jets playing. So
that's why it's like at this time before the Jets have played, this is currently the spread. But we'll see.
We'll circle back. This will be an area where we add on. In the recording, we alluded to the fact that we hadn't watched the Monday Night Football game yet. So Nicole made an assumption that her underdog pick was going to be the Tennessee Titans over the New York Jets, who do, by the way, still qualify as an underdog. I checked the spread. Yes. So the Jets are favored by enough to make the Tennessee Titans an underdog for our game. Nicole, you've now watched Aaron Rodgers be a Jet. What are your thoughts and feelings?
I kind of feel like this is one of those things of like, there's only certain things guaranteed in life. Death, taxes, and the Jets being the Jets. Like it's like also Aaron Rodgers was on an episode of The Office with every like slow zoom in of disappointment on his own face at the end of everything. I somehow I'm keeping my underdog pick of the week just because the spread somehow puts the Titans as underdogs, which honestly, but also the Titans were trash, so maybe this should be the doormat of the week. No, the Giants are still somehow worse. New York is a sad place for football. MetLife is cursed. And but somehow even the defense wasn't good, and the defense was it was all bad. It was all the Jets. Like,
my takeaway from this wasn't actually that, Aaron Rodgers can't play football. I thought Aaron Rodgers looked fine. And if this was the version of the Jets last year, and they could still become that, but they weren't in week 1, then I thought they were going to be good. What this reminded me was that, and I think we both assumed this, but the general conversation did not assume this, that even the Jets operating, like even if that defense was slightly better, even if Aaron Rodgers was even slightly better, and I still thought he was fine. He looked like a serviceable functioning quarterback, which was for a 40-year-old man who came off an Achilles tear seemed great. They're just not in that Super Bowl now tier. The problem is they want to be. Like the whole Aaron Rodgers experiment is win now, but the 49ers are just so much better.
It's a mentality of like operating machinery, you know? A little kid that like wants to ride the roller coaster, but 6 inches too short, like come back next year or in 2 years, man, when you hit your growth spurt. Like it's on paper says certain things, but like it was not a well-oiled machine in operation at all.
And I will say that most teams in the NFL did not look like a well-oiled machine. My takeaway, though, one is that defense did not look like it transferred year to year.
Mm-mm.
But defense can come on. Like, that defense can get better throughout the year. So we need to circle back in, like, week 5 with, like, okay, if that defense is looking better, this team is going to look better. The other thing is, honestly, the Jets just got outcoached. And that's not an embarrassing thing. They're against Kyle Shanahan, who's like a top 3 coach in the league. I think that the 49ers at this point under Shanahan know exactly what they need to do, and they know exactly how to adjust in game when things go right. They lean into it. When things go wrong, they lean out of it. It didn't look like the Jets could do that. Like, even if the talent is there to be performing at a high level, they were ill-prepared to continue to adjust throughout the game, both to what's working well and what was not working well. It was like, I should have looked it up, but how many drives were I almost said the Packers, but he obviously plays for the Jets now. How many times in that game did Aaron Rodgers hand the ball off, and then they were like, 3rd and long, Aaron Rodgers bails out of it, and sometimes he did, which is why I am not putting this on Rodgers, but that is just not a game plan to beat the Niners.
Yeah. No, not at all. I think spot on to your point about coaching, especially 49ers like team coming off a loss at the Super Bowl and you're playing them at home and it's the Jets. Yeah, like it's a different mentality going into that game of wanting to like show up and win because you didn't win the game. Like totally was there. It will be very interesting going into this week against the Titans, and if they're not able to get things operating and functioning and gears wise moving, then but I think returning back in a month and still could be hope. Can defense be the savior for so many teams in the NFL? Is that just what this could become? No, but like maybe sometimes. Not for a Super Bowl team.
I think your upset pick of the week will work out if the Jets continue to be able to get no pressure on the quarterback. We saw in week 1 that Will Levis, with a little bit of pressure, is going to make enough mistakes. He lost to a defense last week. Defense and a special team. So basically, Will Levis lost the game in week 1. So this theoretically could be an incredible like get right game for the Jets defense to like refigure it out. But defense struggles to transfer year to year. So we'll see if they're able to. But I think it is less bold than my upset pick of the week, which was Saints Cowboys. So
yeah, in no way am I saying it's a bold claim, but
no.
in a way of I want to call a quote unquote upset with a +4 Titans against the Jets, I can do it.
So when I was originally doing, we were originally doing our underdog picks, the Arizona Cardinals were enough of an underdog to qualify as an underdog. And the Rams now lost Puka Nacua and 2 offensive linemen. So I was like, that would be a good upset of the week. It doesn't qualify for our upset of the week, but the Arizona Cardinals at home right now, you do get 2.5 points if you pick them against the spread versus the Rams. I still think the Rams are better and should win, but it is going to be a rougher go for the Rams than previously expected. And, we're reminded that Kyler Murray is actually a quarterback. So
Kyler Murray is a quarterback. That still stands to be true.
Hey, click over to that game.
All right, we established this last week, but we are the type of football watchers that if a game's good enough, we will switch away from RedZone. So we want to preview a couple games that we think are going to be good enough to switch away from RedZone. Starting with what I call the morning window because it's 10 a.m. for me, but the 1 p.m. game. Do you want to go first or would you like me to go first?
I will go first. So it's 1 p.m.
Okay.
If I'm switching away from RedZone, next week I will be watching Colts versus Packers.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down too.
That's the one that I was like, there's definitely so many question marks after both games this week. I mean, wanting to see the Packers and Jordan Love and also continuing to see more with Richardson at QB at Indianapolis and further like interest in their offense because they didn't look bad. It wasn't
they looked good.
Bad. They looked
No.
pretty good.
Richardson
They didn't win, but that was not because they looked bad.
Right. It was that Houston played hero ball at the end of the game. Like those two teams looked evenly matched, and it's going to be really exciting and run up for that division. Richardson made a pass that was like a 57-yard bullet for a touchdown that blew my mind. We talked a lot going into the season about how this Colts team is stacked everywhere, and Richardson just needs to be a serviceable quarterback. And I saw a better than serviceable quarterback this year. So yeah, despite the fact that Green Bay is going to be without Jordan Love, I want to switch away to watching this game just to watch the Colts.
Yep, I'm so intrigued of the Colts now. You had me like hyped to watch and be aware in the preseason preview. So I feel like going in today when I was just like, all right, so Richardson, not a joke. Here we go. Like, it was really solid. That's going to be a really fun team to watch. And the Packers is a really interesting opponent to like really put them to a test going into next week.
I'm intrigued if the Packers can keep things afloat without Jordan Love. Like, if he's out for, let's predict that it's on the lower side because it's 3 to 6 weeks. If he's out for 4 weeks and they could go two for two and Love comes back and the team's 2-3, they can still easily make a push for the postseason and win the division. But if they go, 1-3, 0-4 with him out, that really sets them back.
It's hard to dig yourself out of that hole.
Right, especially because the Lions are in that division. So it's the rest of the team is good enough that if they get serviceable backup quarterback play, they should be able to like keep themselves afloat. So there's just so many questions. I could definitely see myself just watching this game exclusively. We don't have to talk more about it because we talked about it in the Underdog picks, but I also could see myself flipping away and watching the Cowboys because Eagles fan and I want to see the Cowboys Saints game, and that's always going to pull and draw my attention. Yes. 4 p.m. window, afternoon games. What game? There's only 2 games. So I'm just going to say the one game that will interest me the most is the Pittsburgh-Denver game. I just want to watch TJ Watt blow up another game because that sounds like it's going to happen and be interesting.
Yeah, I'm in on the Steelers. I kind of want to watch their defense just continue to like destroy. I mean, it's not as interesting to watch continuous like them kick field goals, but it's very interesting to watch their defense just be the defense and TJ Watt just be a wall.
Right. Insane. But the reality is I don't think the afternoon window is going to be a RedZone afternoon at all. It's going to be a YouTube multi-viewer side-by-side the 2-game experience.
Oh no, accidental nap time.
Yeah, I can't believe that NFL, it should be illegal for the NFL to only have 2 games in the afternoon window. Minimum 3 games.
Minimum 3.
I'm always happiest when there's 4.
1 o'clock too confusing. It's going to be too much.
Yep.
And too much in the nighttime? No. No.
Let's tush the push. Let's push the tush. Let's tush the push. Let's push the tush. Let's tush the push. Let's push the tush.
So last week, we talked about the Houston Texans defensive line against the top Colts offensive line. And I actually felt like, despite not winning the game, the Colts offensive line held up in that matchup. But for week 2, I have a new matchup. I will have to say, because there's so many teams that didn't look good playing teams that did look good, like it was really hard for me to find an interesting matchup here. So I pulled the Minnesota offensive line, where they have 2 incredible tackles. Interior of their line is weak, but they have really good tackles. How well are they going to hold up against the outside pressure led by San Francisco's Bosa? And I think that's interesting because Bosa does rush the edge. So this is a relatively even matchup of great tackles against a great edge rusher. And how creative will San Francisco be to maybe send Bosa in the interior where he's not as accustomed to rushing to go up against the weaker guard play for Minnesota? So that is my offensive line, defensive line matchup of the week. How strongly do you feel that San Francisco is just going to eat them alive? Or did I make a decent enough case that it might be more evenly matched than you would expect?
I do think that the 49ers defense is going to eat them alive. Like,
you don't believe in Sam Darnold making his offensive line look good?
I literally don't. Again, it was against the Giants today, and it's still Sam Darnold, and I've seen too much and I know too much. And I also believe in the 49ers defense and like how highly that's ranked and what that's coming in with and how difficult that's going to be. So my pick more on the 49ers is based on their strength of their defense. And also, Sam Darnold is the quarterback. Again, like today, the line of them playing the Giants today doesn't necessarily give us like the greatest tell of their actual performance. So this will be like a serious true test against like a legitimate defense. But I'm siding with the strength of, that defense has been absolutely lights out. So
I think San Francisco wins this game. I think San Francisco's overall defensive line play wins because I think Hargrave is going to eat in this interior offensive line. I think that if Minnesota can focus on holding Bosa, that they have a chance to maybe keep Sam Darnold upright more than we would expect. I don't know if that I don't think that wins them the game, but I think I'm going to have a lot of fun watching both of these tackles hold off Bosa, and I think they have a good chance of at least containing him, even if we see Sam Darnold on his back a lot for this game.
Yeah, it's like if sometimes and not. Like it definitely produces, like it's a good formula equation experiment, like recipe for like a good game. So I do anticipate there being like a really interesting, fun game to watch, but definitely a battle of this defense is going to have major control.
Last week we talked a lot about the name of your fantasy football team. We said that maybe you should consider changing the name because you're both not a Dolphins fan, you're also not a Tua fan, and Tua isn't on your team. But if you were going to change it, it was going to be to another Taylor Swift football reference. So what did you decide? What did you land on?
We have narrowed down to Karma is my tight end. And I do have Travis Kelce as my tight end, which was unexpected and like was not planned going into this draft literally at all. But that's what ended up happening. And honestly, it makes me smile. So I'm just going to ride with that. So yeah, Karma is my tight end is currently the name that we're going with. And
I think that's fantastic because now it's referencing a member of your team. So I think that's a great
member of my team. It's still Taylor Swift. It literally is Karma being the tight end. Yeah, all of it's there. It all makes sense. And then the other incredible updates on everything. Everyone heard at the last Friday football forecast that I was basically begging Jamar Chase to like show up and play and do the thing. So he showed up. He did play. The Bengals did not really do the thing. Right. No one really did the thing, which is kind of like his fault, but like not his fault. My issue this week was I fumbled with my wide receivers. However, I would not have any human being with a brain prior to setting my lineup would have told me that my choices for wide receiver was smart because my wide receivers were Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. However, sitting on my bench is Jameson Williams, who's the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, who currently has 24.5 points when he was only supposed to have 10. And Justin Jefferson only gave me 14 points and Jamar Chase only gave me 12 points. And no one really cares about any of this, even to the point where my AirPods just died. So even like this doesn't want me to hear anything. And it literally has ended this segment for me. You can't even speak to me because I literally can't even hear you. Oh, wow. Like, it's like Nicole cares about your fantasy team in the realest way that you cannot even have a conversation about it. Okay, let's switch to this AirPod. Okay.
All right, well, Nicole's going to get new headphones, and I'm going to end this segment because Nicole's right. No one cares about her fantasy team. College football corner, because we can't forget about college football, even though I always forget about college football, and then Nicole goes, Briana, college football, and I'm like, yes, you're right, Saturday exists, but we're in the middle of Sunday, and like, NFL. Game of the week. Harder to pick this week. It's the turn. This is honestly the part of college football season that drives me crazy because it's like, all the good teams are playing bad teams, and like, is there any actual real game of the week? But we've distilled down and decided that the game of the week is Alabama visiting. Alabama didn't look super great against their cupcake team. Wisconsin, still a Big Ten team, not awful. There's a chance like this could be an interesting game to watch. Do you believe that Alabama is having a down year for Alabama and that this actually could be a close game?
I think it's a relatively down year. I mean, Alabama struggled against USF and really didn't come in until the end. And by the end, literally the fourth quarter to score 3 touchdowns to take back the lead. But it was pretty evenly matched throughout the entire game, which is definitely not Alabama fashion. I also have investment in watching Wisconsin play this game because their quarterback is Tyler Van Dyke, who was Miami's quarterback until he was like, oh, wow, I'm bad, and entered the transfer portal. So, like, that's always fun to kind of see how that all plays out, especially against Alabama, because the last time he played against Alabama, he got his butt kicked. So, even though Alabama's having a down year, I predict Alabama to win. However, they're looking a little janky, and if a team could come into it, Wisconsin does have a pretty solid program, and it would be interesting if that came from Tyler Van Dyke, but it's not completely unheard of. I don't think Alabama is an impossible wall.
I think Bama wins, but I think it's closer than expected because they're on the road, and Wisconsin isn't USF. So if they stumble, Wisconsin can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
All right, Nicole. This is where I gloat that last week my top 25 team I put on upset alert actually got upset. But we gotta make our predictions for this week, and it's highly unlikely I get this as right as I did last week. I still can't believe that happened. So which top 25 team are you putting on upset alert for week 3 of college football?
So I was this close to also being able to gloat because Oregon was this close to also losing to Boise State. So going into the next week, I am still writing that Oregon's going to be upset this time by an in-state rival of Oregon State because I think it's still way too close for comfort. Oregon's currently like, God, they obviously dropped. I don't even know what their rank is. I don't know. They're going to get upset. Not as strong as they at all were supposed to be, upset by in-state rival Oregon State.
I considered that one because the in-state, I don't think Oregon and Oregon State have as much of a rivalry, but they are like, it's in-state, it's competitive.
It's the in-state,
so I did consider it.
It's enough, yeah.
Yeah. For the same reason I went with Iowa State and Iowa, like same vibes. But I decided to go a different direction where LSU has looked a little shaky.
This was my backup pick.
I'm glad we have each other's backup. So LSU looks a little shaky. They have to travel to South Carolina, which is still an SEC team. South Carolina has looked, haven't played anyone interesting, but they've had a foundation of not looking awful, whereas LSU has looked shakier. So I'm going to go South Carolina upsets LSU.
I think that is a really great pick. I'm also, based on that, like for that pick, a lot of vested interest in just whatever the vibes are in the LSU locker room, because Coach Kelly definitely does not seem like he's bringing in the most positive, like, team camaraderie atmosphere. Like, not that I would expect him to do that at all, but like, let's not scream at a kicker when we're like definitely like on national television. Like, all bad looks. Let's not flip tables, all that type of stuff. So it's like where I think that like mentality definitely catches up, and I could totally see that being a really solid upset. It's going to happen a matter of time this season for LSU.
Right. I hope it's this week. All right, the last part of our college football corner, we have crazy Canes fan Nicole Katz predict the outcome of this week's Canes game. We're both University of Miami alum. I will always be skeptical of the University of Miami until they prove me otherwise, so it's not interesting to listen to me predict the games. But Nicole, in our Another Sports Show this week, you are still riding high that the U is back with a high 7 mark. So you're taking that, I'm assuming, into your predictions for this week's game. What do you think is going to happen?
Canes will beat Ball State. I hope that's enough of like an explanation. It's Ball State.
Going into this week, I said the Canes need to win by at least 3 touchdowns for me to feel good about it. What outcome of the Ball State game needs to happen for you to move your U is back meter up from a 7? Can they do anything to get you to move it up from a 7 this week?
No.
My
delusion is delusional. However, I don't think anything within the game against Ball State I would feel confident enough to take away of, like, of moving up my score, because it's also going to get to the point where if we are playing as dominantly as we should, then it's going to be like our third string quarterback going in. So it's not like the team that I can be. Comes out. So
it's really just the case.
When I'm calling Cam Ward to come in, I'm going to throw in our third string quarterback because I am on the sidelines with this team. It's not like the same measuring, I guess we're kind of looking at like the depth of how they're well to perform, but Ball State's at no level close to the competition of being in the college football playoffs. So I'm not adjusting my score just yet. The 7 was super high based on a mentality, rivalry, away, swamp, all of the type of stuff. And right now I'm just cooking, and if we're not losing, that's where we're staying.
I think they could do something in the Ball State game to get you to lower your U.S.
100%, 1000%. If like
only bad things could happen.
It could only go down. Only bad things can happen, unless the way that I would be able to like move up if Cam Ward grew wings, and like that is how I like he full Lady Gaga's at the Super Bowl, like dives from the top is how I'm suddenly upping this ranking. Other than that, it's going down or staying the same. Go Canes.
It's time for the final buzzer.
Normally, this final buzzer is used for big injury news, maybe a trade, anything relevant to the football weekend. And while this is not injury news, I think it's very relevant to football. At least I'm making it so, because I make the rules. Ryan Fitzpatrick posted this with his partnership for Shake Shack. Malik Willis will be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers this week, with Jordan Love out with an injury that he sustained during the game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Malik Willis played college football for Auburn, was drafted in the 3rd round of the 2022 draft by the Tennessee Titans, and he was recently acquired by the Green Bay Packers. This would only be Willis's 4th career start. He saw 3 games in his rookie year for the Tennessee Titans, and nothing last year. I won't break down the details, but nothing from those 3 starts was stellar, but I don't know if you would expect them to be. Rams star wide receiver Puka Nacua is placed on injured reserve. He will miss at least 4 games. The Rams also put 2 offensive linemen on the injured reserve this past week. None of this bodes well for the high-flying offense or keeping Matthew Stafford upright. Panthers defensive line injury woes continue. Derek Brown is announced as out for the season. It is Thursday, September 12th at 5 p.m. California time, and I have seen reports today both that Christian McCaffrey will definitely play and that he is definitely not playing. So we'll see what happens. The Pac-12 has announced that it's going to be adding 4 new schools starting in 2026: Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State. A reminder that Nick Foles is retiring as an Eagle during Monday Night Football. He'll be serving as an honorary captain for the game as well. If you are attending the Eagles home game, Bud Light is doing an activation where they're giving away the Philly beers, and you could potentially meet Fletcher Cox, so go.
And get one for Briana and mail it to her, and she'll probably give you an unreasonable amount of money and or cry.
Mm-hmm. Both. And if the cry makes you uncomfortable, I will just not cry to you.
But it'll still happen without your knowledge.
Thank you for listening to another sports show. Thank you to our co-creators, Nicole Katz and Briana Klein. Thank you to the 4-legged executive producers and me, Voiceover Man. Make us one of your stars of the game by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on auto downloads. Make our day by leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice and a comment on YouTube. Attend the postgame on social media for exclusive daily content. We'll be back to review the playbook every week. See you next Tuesday.
Today was another sports show, and it was a little too cocky about guessing the Iowa upset last week.